25. Congo, the fascinating painter. The mere thought that the human race descended from other animals, specifically from apes, could cost you your life in medieval Europe. But from the 19th century on, such theories found fertile ground for deep exploration. Congo, an incredibly talented chimp, added more fuel to the validity of such theories with his emotional intelligence, superb artwork, and artistic creativity. 24. The black pig that killed a French king. As Philip of France was riding his horse, a random black pig entered his path, which made his horse flip out, with Philip still in his saddle. The injuries were so bad that the king died the next day. You could say that this pig altered history by preventing Philip from conquering further lands. 23. Jim the horse. Did you know that we have a horse to thank for the diphtheria cure? It's true. Jim the horse was infected with diphtheria, but unlike other animals, he didn't die. Doctors found that his body created antibodies to fight the disease, and as such, gave doctors the opportunity to use Jim's incredible immune system to make a serum for humans with great success. 22. Tesla's Cylon pigeon. Anyone who's familiar with Tesla's genius and experiment is probably aware of his odd fascination with pigeons, especially a female pigeon he referred to as the purpose to my life. In 1924, this bird landed on his window and died right before his eyes. Tesla later claimed a dazzling light emerged from her eyes while dying, brighter than anything he had ever seen. After that, Tesla was never the same and suffered a massive creative frustration. According to most biographers, if the incident had never occurred, Tesla would have offered even more inventions to humankind. 21. Tibbles the Terminator. There have been many cases where we humans have systematically caused the extinction of various species, but we never really noticed that the same thing occurs in the animal kingdom. Enter the unique case of Tibbles the Terminator. Believe it or not, this cat is the reason for the total extermination of the rare species of a flightless bird known as the Stevens Island wren. And to date, it is the only case where a single living animal, besides humans that is, wiped out a whole species. 20. Ham the Chimp. Ham the Chimp was named after the Hollow Man Aerospace Medical Center and became a huge celebrity all over America. He ended up on the cover of Life magazine after his Project Mercury mission, labeled MR2, launched him into orbit on January 31st, 1961. Ham learned to pull levers to receive banana pellets and avoid electric shocks, and thus he successfully became the first animal to actually interact with the space vessel, rather than simply ride in it. 19. Alex the Genius Parrot. Alex, the world-renowned African parrot, changed how the world viewed and understood animal intelligence before the mid-70s. The remarkably smart parrot displayed extraordinary cognitive and communication abilities, such as the ability to count objects individually within a group, identify colors, things, and actions. 18. Sergeant Reckless, the hero horse of the Korean War. Reckless was a small, humble mare that served in the Korean War, for which she was twice promoted to staff sergeant. She was trained to transfer ammo, and during a single battle she made 51 solo trips under enemy fire. But that's not all. She also saved the lives of numerous wounded soldiers by evacuating them, a fact that earned her many medals, including the Good Conduct Medal, the National Defense Service Medal, and the Korean Service Medal. 17. Checkers, the dog that inspired a historic presidential speech. On September 23, 1952, Senator Richard Nixon gave one of the most famous speeches in modern American history. Nixon, Dwight D. Eisenhower's vice presidential running mate, was accused at the time of accepting illegal gifts. He denied the allegations and during his speech referred to a Cocker Spaniel named Checkers. Arguably due to his speech, Nixon remained on the Republican ticket as Eisenhower's running mate, and they won the election only a few weeks after. Furthermore, September 23rd was designated National Dogs in Politics Day, also known as Checkers Day. 16. Bucephalus, the most dominant horse in history. According to legend, Bucephalus was a wild horse that no man could tame. A young Alexander the Great became the first and only man to tame the wild horse, not by force, as so many before had tried and failed, but by turning the horse's head towards the sun, understanding that Bucephalus was simply afraid of his own shadow. After that, no one but Alexander could mount the horse, and together they would conquer vast territories and spread Greek culture throughout the world. 15. Robert the Bruce's Inspirational Spider. We all know Robert the Bruce as one of the most famous Scottish warriors ever, and the man who led his country during the heroic wars of Scottish independence against England. However, before he became one of Scotland's greatest heroes, he had suffered a few humiliating losses, which made him hide in a cave on Rathlin Island during the winter of 1306. There, he observed a spider trying to build a web across the cave walls, only to have the harsh winter weather tear its work down every day. Nonetheless, the spider never quit, and one day the web held fast. Robert was so inspired by the spider's persistence that he returned to war with the English, determined to fight for Scotland until his country was free. 14. Sergeant Stubby. Sergeant Stubby is the most decorated war dog of World War I and the only dog in US history that was promoted to sergeant because of his time in combat. Even though most historians believe that the dog earned the honorary rank from the Smithsonian Institution and not the US Army. One way or another, Stubby served for 18 months and participated in 17 battles on the Western Front, during the course of which he saved his regiment from many unexpected mustard gas attacks and found and comforted several wounded soldiers. 13. The monkey that killed a nation's leader during war. After two victorious Balkan wars against the Ottoman Empire, Greece was prevailing and conquering one territory after another at the beginning of the Greco-Turkish War from 1919 to about 1922. However, the Greek leader of the military campaign would lose his life to a monkey. A macaque monkey bit Alexander, the Greek king, and caused a wound that would later become infected, killing him at age 27. Only a couple of years after his death and a series of political mistakes by the Greek side, the initially victorious campaign became a national disaster and a monkey became the nation's most hated living animal. 12. The snake that killed Cleopatra. Even though Cleopatra's death is disputed, it is widely accepted that she made a poisonous snake bite her as her empire was falling into Roman hands. If this is what indeed happened, then the snake shaped history by killing one of the most powerful, dominant women who ever lived. 11. The dog that captured the world's most wanted man. On May 2, 2011, a well-trained Malinois named Cairo accompanied the US Navy SEALs who killed Osama bin Laden. Even though we don't have many details about this secret but successful operation, every member of the team guarantees that the outcome might not have been as successful if it weren't for Cairo. 10. The crocodiles that fought in World War II alongside the Allies. The South Pacific during World War II holds the distinction for being an especially savage killing ground, the likes of which humankind had never seen before or since. Yet one of the bloodiest, most horrific massacres in the history of war came not at the hands of humans, but from the jaws of the animal kingdom. The Battle of Ramree Island, which was fought for 6 weeks during January and February 1945, entered the Guinness Book of World Records for the most fatalities in a crocodile attack. According to various estimations, anywhere from 500 to almost 1,000 Japanese soldiers were slaughtered by thousands of saltwater crocodiles that were lying in wait in the inland swamps, thus shaping military history as no other animal has. 9. A random eagle and a turtle killed the father of tragedy. Aeschylus is recognized worldwide as the father of tragedy since he was the first of the three ancient Greek tragedians, along with Sophocles and Euripides. As the legendary playwright was working on his new play, he became the victim of his own bald head. According to various historical sources, Aeschylus was killed by a tortoise, dropped by an eagle that had mistaken his head for a rock. In this ironic way, the life of one of the greatest writers who ever lived was cut short, thus preventing more classic plays from being finished. 8. The Newfoundland dog that saved Napoleon. It is widely believed that a Newfoundland saved the great military from certain death. In 1815, during Napoleon's escape from exile on the island of Elba, a gigantic wave knocked him overboard, which almost led to his death. Fortunately, a fisherman's dog jumped into the water and kept Napoleon afloat until he reached the shore's safety. 7. Cher Ami, the most heroic pigeon in history. During World War I, Cher Ami was one of the many birds used by the US Army Signal Corps in France to transport important messages from commanders in the battlefield. In one of the missions, Cher Ami was shot by German troops after he took flight, but the wounded bird continued flying and heroically managed to deliver the important message he carried. As a result, a lost battalion of the Allies was saved, and Cher Ami later was awarded the Croix de Guerre by the French government. 6. The hungry wolves who temporarily ended World War I. In the winter of 1916 to 17, the Germans fought against the Russians in an area stretching more than 1,000 miles from the Baltic Sea in the north to the Black Sea in the south. During that winter, the sub-zero temperatures forced starving Russian wolves to attack organized groups of soldiers. The problem eventually became so serious that there were days where both sides had more casualties from the vicious wolf attacks than the actual battles. This led to a temporary truce to join forces against the bloodthirsty wolves. By working together, the two sides managed to murder hundreds of wolves while the rest scattered, permanently leaving the area. With the victory against the wolves accomplished, the truce ended and the soldiers went back to killing each other. 5. The birds that inspired the invention of the robot. Archytas, an ancient Greek mathematician and scientist who lived around 430 to 350 BCE, is also known as the father of the first robot. But if it wasn't for his fascination with and love for birds, especially pigeons, he would have never earned such a flattering title. See, in his quest to learn how birds fly, Archytas created his own steam-powered wooden pigeon. 4. The rats and fleas that killed almost half of Europe's population. In the mid-14th century, a deadly pandemic known as the Black Death wiped out about half of Europe's population. Later, scientists and researchers found that the infectious disease that killed so many people was caused by the bacterium Yersinia pestis, which infects rats and other small rodents and is typically transmitted to humans by the bite of infected fleas. 3. Dolly, the most famous clone in history. Arguably the most famous animal of our generation, Dolly made history back in the 90s when she became the first mammal to be cloned. From a medical and biological viewpoint, the significance of this feat can benefit humans and animals alike in literally millions of ways. One of these being cloning other animals, even extinct ones. 2. Laika, the iconic space dog. Even though Laika was not the first animal in space, it's without a doubt the most famous one, and the first to orbit Earth as the only crew member of the legendary Sputnik 2 in 1957. Unfortunately, Laika died during the flight, as was inevitable, since the technology to return from orbit had not yet been invented. And 1. Balto, the humanist. This is the only time in recorded history that an animal directly saved an entire town through its actions. In 1925, the Alaskan town of Nome suffered a devastating outbreak of diphtheria, and the only available airplane in the area was frozen, so several teams of sled dogs were put together to rush to Anchorage for the antitoxin. For over 1,000 miles, the heroic dog led the team through whiteout blizzards and all kinds of dangers. The dog's fearless journey is nowadays honored through the running of the annual Iditarod Trail Sled Dog Race, and is the story behind the Disney's animated film Balto. Liking our lists? Be sure to subscribe by pressing the button at the top corner of your screen. And if you're still itching for more awesome lists, click on these nifty thumbnails created by yours truly, and be sure to show us some love by liking, sharing, and commenting.